So we're here in the offices of Affinidi with Glenn Gore, the CEO, and Gary's on the Affinidi team as well. Glenn, do you want to make a few comments because you've been very gracious in hosting us?
Yeah, look, first of all, welcome to Singapore on behalf of Affinity, Max and Daryl. Always good to have you here. Really excited for what the teams have built together. I think as an industry, we're focused a lot on issuance of credentials, and I like to see innovation on the presentation of these credentials and showing kind of more complex user flows and end-to-end aspects of it, which is what you'll be demoing, which is great to see. I also think this is great because we're committing this to open source and open standards. So for all of you watching this, if you think, hey, you want to participate, you can build, you've got components. I'd love to talk to you and open this up and see what we can all innovate together.
We're joined by Mathieu Glaude. Mathieu, do you want to say a few words of welcome and then we'll run away with things? And then we have a gong sound for you.
Oh, a gong sound. All right. Hi everyone. I'm Mathieu Glaude. I am CEO of a Canadian company called Northern Block, and looking forward to demonstrating the work we've been doing in trust registries and how we've aligned with Ayra and why it's important we feel aligning with what Ayra is doing and how we're demonstrating interoperability with others in the ecosystem such as Affinity. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Mathieu is joining us from Eastern time zone, so it's a little later in the evening for him. So today we're going to go through a few things here. We're going to have a demonstration as well as discussion. When I say discussion, I don't mean a group discussion. I mean we're going to show and talk about a few things that are a little slower to demonstrate. We're going to both receive and use an Ayra card. We're going to use that in several different contexts, in particular a business card. We're going to show you how trust registries are linking more and more ecosystems, that being that trust registry fabric that is the Ayra Trust Network. And we're going to talk a little bit about conformance testing and how that's kind of bringing things together. Again, we're joined here by Glenn Gore. I've got a spelling mistake. Gary, Mathieu, Maxwell, and I have been here for a few days working with the team. When we were founded, as a Swiss nonprofit, our goal really is to make sure that trust, instead of being a barrier, it is right now, it's really hard to establish trust, that it actually is the enabler. And that's what's really behind the Ayra cards and Ayra card concept. The reason we were founded was that we know that trust was already decaying and it rapidly went downhill with AI. No matter how much investment was being thrown at it, everything, costs are rising. And business is really catching up to what the technology already can do. The frustration of folks who had technology investments but weren't realizing them fully was that we realized that the business and the governance was lacking. That's why you'll always hear in Ayra us talk about business, governance, and then tech. We also knew that we had to do this together. There could not be a single company that can do this, no single organization, no single government, no single civil society group. So we came together to create this neutral forum that is Ayra. The goal we have is to create a network effect that helps to build and restore digital trust. And Ayra Card is our real first push at that. And it is enabling all of the pieces that are moving around there. We know that this trust layer is necessary. It's no longer a differentiator. It's so bad right now that we know we have to have a common way of doing this so that we can build on top of trust instead of making trust a unique thing. That has not worked at all. So the goals of this demonstration really come down to the hopes are that members see themselves here, either as users of the system, folks who need to just be a human and do their job, live in the day-to-day world, companies that need to deploy software to meet their business needs, but also the technical providers, the systems integrators who provide that work and integrate it. Because those providers are the underpinnings of this, but it's the end users at the end of the day that we really want to make sure they see themselves. Part of our goal here as well is education and awareness. The discussion of some simple business cases here that we're talking about, as well as knowing the underpinning tech is there. It's to help drive awareness of what is feasible, what is possible. What we have found with Ayra Card is it has opened up some thinking of folks who are not as decentralized identity, SSI centric. That might be the first time I said SSI since arriving here 4 days ago. Yeah. That's what's really neat about this. We're no longer talking about the tech. It's about the business problem. It's also, this demonstration is a prelude to doing business proof of concept and pilot projects, where every proof of concept and pilot project will have at least one demonstration, so that members see who's fulfilling what role, what's being done, what's the business problem being solved, and they can see themselves. And this is just the first one of these. This shift to the Ayra Card protocol has really been driving a lot of strong interest, especially from the business and business proof of concepts. You'll hear us say that we can wire these things up and do tech demos all day long. That's great when you're working with the tech developers and stuff, and selling on a tech forward motion. The Ayra community is more about solving the business, making sure that governance is sufficient to, or better than necessary, to get the job done and make sure that the tech is working. So we're always focused on a proof of concept that has a business problem or set of problems to solve. So the conditions when we started coming up with this idea of a demo was we wanted to make sure that all the components demonstrated here are prepared to, we're not 100% there, we're still building the Conformance Test Suite, but prepared to meet the test suite, but also represent systems that are deployed, meaning, and you'll hear Maxwell talk about the proofs of concept and pilot projects that he's talking with folks about. It's out of box. We don't want to have a 3-month development time frame to say, hey, I want to develop a capability and it's going to take me forever because I haven't thought about that thing. It's like, no, like largely configuration. Can I use the kit? Can I tailor it? Can I talk about the business case, but not build net new tech? What's been really interesting, and kudos to Paramesh and Natan if they're on the call, they have been doing the front end stuff. You'll see me demonstrating a hotel. You'll see me demonstrating signing to an office. You'll see me demonstrating a coffee shop. That's all front end development, but it was all just UX to actually test out the underlying kit. Additionally, these we wanted to make sure that the concepts here are being done on the basis of that the same idea will be done during proofs of concept in pilot projects. Additionally, and this is important, you'll see this later as well, we wanted to make sure that members understood that any one of the parts they're playing here. So you will see Affinidi doing issuances. We're not going to show that much. Holder wallet and verifying systems. They're doing that. Matthew's got a trust registry. Affinidi has a trust registry, and Ayra has a trust registry. All of those pieces are relatively interchangeable because we want to make sure that if we have a, Affinidi is backing, in our case, the Sweet Lane group, that they can work with Mathieu Glaude, who has a travel industry. We don't want to have to say, well, you need to adopt my kit. That's the whole point behind Ayra. So let's talk, the premise here, you're going to see me doing this, you've seen me talk about this probably too much, is the ritual in the real world of when I share a business card does a few things that we don't think about much. But in a digital world, we need to do the same thing. The first off is it establishes a connection, a relationship. If you have asked me for my card, or have offered my card, we have a relationship together. That is something that can be durable. It may last as long as you can walk by at a conference, a garbage bin, and toss it away. Or 20 years from now, we may still have a relationship or sets of relationships from that. So that relationship is one of the things we often miss. It also shares a small amount of information. I can receive a business card in a totally different language and character set that I do not understand. I can still get some value. I'll see your company logo. I'll likely get your phone number, and now I can do Signal, WhatsApp, whatever, WeChat, Wire, Line, whatever is your choice on DM tools. And then with a business card, the business card has no opinion on what we do next. And that's really, really important because in the over-credentializing world that we often live in when we put our tech heads on, it's like, well, what credential do we need for that? It's like, no. A business card literally starts the conversation, tiny amount of data, and what dance we're going to do from there. We may, connect and meet for dinner at a conference. We may integrate and sign contracts and stuff together. We don't know where it's going to go. The business card doesn't care. That's kind of what you're going to see here. So how is this working? So we're taking an approach where the individual is the point of integration because we have many, many source systems. Our own companies, government information, travel, banking. You're going to see a few of those. I don't think we're doing banking today. But the idea is, well, we could in the next demo. I'm going to give a business card to someone. I'm going to hold the business card. You're going to see me using it. I'm then going to present that to a verifier. This is normal, standard trust triangle stuff. You'll note we're not using the trust triangle. What we've been finding, talking to business people, Maxwell in particular, is the trust triangle is meaningless in a business context. It's helpful in an SSI context, but if you know SSI, you're probably not thinking business. This is workflow. I'm carrying the payload. I'm checking the payload is verifiable. We know that the Ayra Trust Network is there to make sure that the card is issued by a valid party. There's other information that's signed by those parties. There's also payload information that may or may not be authenticated, but that's your choice. But then I'm carrying that information in and I'm just taking a look at the basic business card and the payloads to do various things. You're going to see us talk about what it would be in the military would call it visitor clearance. We're going to see loyalty rewards type of thing, point of sale, compliance, and corporate today. We also, though, you can integrate this deeply into we have some members deeply integrated into their own identity and access management stack, into your CRM, your social. You can do a signal link. You'll see that. We're not going to demonstrate that today. We've also had a lot of members ask about binding a person to the card, not holder binding to the device, but literally to the card. And then what do I do? That's an area that we can do as a payload very, very easily. So here's the business story. The SweetLane Group in the demonstration we're going to show today is a global conglomerate, meaning one huge company that owns a bunch of other companies that are very diverse with what the operating divisions around the world. Many of our members are exactly this, many sub-companies. They travel the world. In this case, we're going to visit a SweetLane site, and it could be a customer site as well. We're also going to just do some normal travel living type of thing. Going to get a coffee, going to check into the hotel. And we'll talk a little bit why that's the hotel different is a little bit of a difference. It has a corporate link. What we've learned about is, working across organizations, it is problematic. Crossing a boundary is problematic, whether that's in your own company, in your own company group, or in the broader world. Crossing domain boundaries is really, really hard. So the scenario here is we're going to talk, loosely about what today's business travel is, but also what the tomorrow view is. Where we're really going to focus is on what does it mean when we have an Ayra card, when we have this business card that I can do stuff with. I can do various different things, very technical terms, stuff and things. Got that from John Jordan. But here's what we're going to see. You're going to see me. I already have a card. I'm going to show you what I got. I'm not going to watch you. I can maybe make an edit to it. Going to access a building site that validates right to access. This can be me showing up at my own company's office in a different country. That's a problem. In the EU, they're turning away their own employees right now in some companies because they can't answer questions. It could be me accessing a client site as well, which is also another initiative where this technology has been attempted in many, many, many times. Going to register at a hotel with a corporate booking code. That is a fraud point that is unbelievable how much it happens, but also just receiving a discount. We're going to see trust registries linking ecosystems. Mathieu Claude is going to show you a different ecosystem. Affinidi, we've got the trust registries managing the SweetLane group. They manage all of the companies in the SweetLane group. I think we're going to have, in my examples, we'll see SweetLane Bank is part of the group. We're also going to see Northern Block talking about the travel industry. I'm also going to show you quickly the Conformance Test Suite. It's pretty nerdy, so we're not going to get too deep into that. But I'll explain the why we have that, and then that's available for everybody to start using as they play, as they develop scenarios and play around with things to make sure things are working. What you're going to see in the broad integration with the card is, again, access to a client facility, coffee shop, hotel. Mathieu is going to show you how he is already using and working on a project with multiple major travel players. I'll leave the names of them to him. You're going to see on the Conformance Test Suite, I'm going to focus on the trust registry side of things, but we do have 3 profiles. I'll explain what those are. So I'm going to start doing a demo. I'm just going to change screens right now. So in this case here, I am going to, you're seeing my screen, my phone. This is, imagine the scenario where I have arrived at a client site. I want to get into a building and they need to know that I work for their vendor, that I am authorized to access the building and I have all of the right clearances. So if I take a look at what do I have here? I have an employment credential that I'm employed by SweetLane Bank. I have a government identity credential that allows me to tie me to something concrete that the company's not saying, hey, this is Daryl's ID. No, this literally is my ID. But I also have an Ayra business card. On the Ayra business card, I can edit data here. I'm not going to actually edit much, but you'll note that a lot of these fields are locked. If an employer is issuing me a business card, you don't want me changing things like, yes, I'm CEO, or I have these rights. There are certain things that the system is going to lock down. But I may want to do things like, hey, I need to update my doodle poll. I want you to be able to book a meeting with me. I may want to, in this case, I added in my signal connection. I bumped up I did for demonstration purposes, bump myself to executive level, by the way. That normally would be locked, operationally speaking. I promoted myself. But I can go in and link this information. So I have these cards, but the question becomes, what do I do with it? How do I use it? So in this case here, you're going to see me step up here, and I'm actually going to start scanning to actually sign into the building. So a couple of things are happening here. So what this is doing is asking for credentials. Because I am in a business context, it's my employer who created this thing. I don't need to ask for a privacy check. This is a business context. So what's an interesting thing that's been thought about here is, what is the user experience when I don't have privacy concerns? I mean, I may, but if I want to get into the building, I need to do this thing. So this has basically grabbed the card, and now it's available, and it has processed and said I'm allowed to access the meeting in this case. And what we have here is all of this information here about me, all the information that I decided to share, including my VLAI, which that's a glyph piece. So this scenario is really kind of about how do I get into the office? We have another version which actually allows us to get into a secure room with make sure we have the financial clearance documents, but I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on that. But then later on in the day, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. And what's interesting about one of the business things we've heard from many, many players, coffee shops, single hotels, other businesses who want to have loyalty rewards have no real ability to do that because they have to be big enough to care about. In this case, what the system is going to do is say, hey, listen, you're a member of the Ayra Trust Network, not a Sweet Lane Group problem. You're a member of the Ayra Trust Network, which means anyone in that area who wants to hook in can actually go and get something here. I'm going to actually scan this one here. And this one here is actually saying to me, oh, I have a description, offers and rewards. They're not part of the Sweet Lane Group. They're not from our company. Okay, I'm going to proceed. It's then saying, hey, they're actually asking for the credentials. This is a case where I may have privacy concerns. I want to make sure, hey, am I doing the right thing here? Why are they asking for information? I want coffee. So yes. So I'm going to confirm and share. So it's actually asking for information, and now it's actually got the thing, and I've now got a discount. It's telling me that, and it's already on the teller side. They're seeing the same type of information. So this is a case where we've gone in and basically hooked into sharing something that's outside of the Sweet Lane Group. But let's go to another case here. I know I'm moving fairly fast, but we want these things to be relatively routine. And this is me signing into a hotel. So very similar type of thing is they're outside of our group. But in this case, the business problem we're looking at is I have a corporate discount. But how do they know I'm actually part of the corporate group? Because this is something that's rampant in the hotel industry. People are using other companies' codes, representing themselves as employees of those companies, getting substantial discounts, like 80%. So now you have hotels not receiving the monies they want, or they want to challenge somebody, make their customer feel awful. Now how do they deal with this problem? In this case here, it's actually going to check to say, are you actually employed by the Sweet Lane Group? And then what happens? So it's actually asking now. I'm going to confirm and share. And it is going to process the information. It says I've checked in. I'm part of the Sweet Lane Group, and I've now checked in, and now my discount code has been applied. But they know that I'm actually part of the Sweet Lane Group. We've seen folks receive templates for fake business cards given by the employees of the companies who have the discount codes. So I'm going to just now, that's really the demonstration of things moving around. I do want to show one quick thing here, which again, if we get into the what's on this system here, is I've decided to share my social profile. So if I want to get in, this is basically, I can share within that's me on LinkedIn. That's actually got my Signal connections. So you actually have all of the information that we need. And again, you get to decide how much of this you're going to share. You're not going to share all the payloads with everybody. But that's one of the things we'll be working on in more proofs of concept and demonstration. What are the business problems we want to solve in a business POC, and start working through that. Now, underneath the hood here, another thing that hotel wants to know, and we've talked with multiple different groups in the travel industry, including board members of massive travel companies. The smaller institutions, the smaller hotels, as an example, want to know, are you I'm a lifetime platinum elite Marriott, just bad life of travel. But they also want to know, are you elite somewhere? Are you an airline? Are you a regular traveler, or are you someone else? Because they may want to say, hey, listen, we never come across you before, but you may come back. Just bump you up. That means now we have another whole industry. How do I go from the hotel, which has a Suite Lane Group connection, which is a business relationship? We have a discount code. Here's how you do that. Go do the thing. When we want to go broader, we actually want to start sharing different information. To talk about that, we're going to get Mathieu Glaude to actually show and discuss what he's been doing in the travel industry, which is both a trust registry play, which is what we're talking about mostly here, but it also involves issuing, holding, verifying credentials in a travel context. Mathieu, you want to take it away?
Sounds good. Thank you for that demonstration. That was super cool to see. So yeah, before I start sharing my screen, we at Northern Block are involved in different ecosystems or different verticals, and depending on who we're working with, we work with issuers, holders, verifiers, or ecosystem governing authorities. And so over the past years, we've been investing both on the data exchange layer as well as on the governance layer. And so we've been spending a lot of time thinking about trust registries and turning it into a usable product for ecosystem governing authorities, but also a usable product so that different ecosystem members that are participating in data exchange could, one, rely on trust registries to get inputs to help inform them on their trust decisions, but at the same time, being able to request for membership to registries and also being able to publish claims to registries, which I'll get into in my demonstration. So some of the key verticals that we've been implementing both the credential data exchange layer and trust registries are in travel, like Daryl mentioned. We've also been doing it in the real estate data exchange space and also a lot of work in the mining space as it pertains to sustainability credentials that are needed for selling raw minerals and also complying to different international standards that require that certain sustainability requirements are met. So really coming up with strong data with strong governance backing that has to do with that. And so I look to get sign-offs. Like we're publicly known that we're a partner of IATA as part of their strategic partnership program. We have been conducting operational pilots with them for the past couple of years, both in B2C and B2B contexts. So B2C meaning like how a traveler with credentials could get from point A to point B much quicker. And we've done some operational pilot projects using both the credential infrastructure and trust registry infrastructure for travelers actually live between the Hong Kong International Airport and the Narita Airport in Tokyo with Cathay Pacific as an airline. That was a really cool pilot that we did last year. There's a lot of information online about that. I can't go too deep into the trust registry work we're doing right now for IATA, but we are supporting both the B2B and the B2C projects. Their B2C projects are moving more towards the mobile driver's license specification, which has its nuances and differences in trust registry. But what I wanted to do today, and I could talk about the IATA context, but I will show another operational trust registry that we have live in one of the other ecosystems I mentioned, which is mining through a national association where the Mining Association of Canada is the operator of a trust registry for Canadian mining operators as it comes to their sustainability credentials or the governance around that. So I will just do a quick run through of what our product looks like, and hopefully it paints a picture of how it fits within everything that Daryl has been discussing to date and what our partners here through Ayra at Affinidi are going to discuss as well. So let me share my screen. Um, so we have two sides. One is right now I'm looking at a web application from the administrator of the trust registry's perspective. We have a system that allows anyone to create new trust registries. Like if I wanted to come in here and register for an account and create a new trust registry, and I'm just going to put dummy data in here just to just show one thing. that we're hosting under our domain today. And so if I want to create a new trust registry, and the purpose of the trust registry is to support digital credential exchanges, this is all I wanted to show. And then I'll get back to my trust registry, is that everything is very configurable when it comes to the data model. And really the base is that we do not want to be opinionated on the types of public identifiers that an ecosystem may want to use. So an ecosystem may want to use the centralized identifiers just like they may want to use like a web domain type of thing. And so these are all configurable, and same thing with the member details. And so if I jump back, I will not create a new trust registry right now, because that's not what I want to do. But if I go back into this mining ecosystem trust registry, again, as the administrator, and I'm looking at my membership management list here, I could see that I have 29 registrants or members within my trust registry. If I wanted to add a new one, here's the data model that's been set up when the trust registry was set up for the different types of fields that we want to capture for the entities in question in this trust registry. And if I jump into one of them, I could see here the identifiers for this organization, different member details for the organization. If I want to make any authority statements for them, I could do so in here. I could see that there's no authority statement right now for this mining operator. And what an authority statement means is that as a trust registry operator, I may be saying, you know what, I want to be able to make statements for authorized issuers of specific data or specific credentials, just like maybe authorized verifiers of certain credentials. And so I'm able to set these here. So I've already pre-configured these in the trust registry, that I have two different types of authority statements. I've already configured that as a ecosystem governing authority, I'm governing this one credential. And in the case of the Mining Association of Canada, they are actually the governing body behind this standard. Just like in the travel use case, the International Air Travel Association will be the governing body for different types of credentials that get issued to travel agencies, to airlines, and stuff like that. So they're able to manage this in here. Again, we're not very opinionated on the technical stack of these credentials, but right now I'm just looking at a non-cred credential, which is the stack we're using in Canada for this ecosystem right now. So I could see that I have my credential that I'm governing. I could see the credential attributes. If I wanted to add a new credential, and just using a simple example here, if I went and said, hey, I have a mining employee credential, and this has already been published to a verifiable data registry. I'm able to take this, I'm able to come in here, I'm able to bring in the schema, and then I'm able to onboard a new credential under my governance. And I could specify the schema, the credential definition. Again, this would differ if we're using different technology. If I wanted to specify branding of the credential, I'm able to specify it here as well, and I'll show how we render this in the experience. The governance URL, so a lot of the work that we do nowadays as well is we're trying to increase the supply of credentials in certain ecosystems. So really making sure that we're documenting credential governance, so that if I come here and I'm looking at another credential with one of our customers with the city of Vancouver that we're in the market with, they have a business license credential. So it's expected that every credential should have its governance, and it should be published somewhere. It doesn't need to be published directly in our trust registry, but we're able to refer to these things. And so I'm able to add credentials into here. I'm able to categorize different types of assurance levels. Again, this is an area that we're still working with the community and Daryl, and just to figure out how we want to bring this in to the perspective of what does an assurance level mean for different types of authorizations, for different types of credentials, for different types of DID methods. You could see I'm also managing the types of DID methods that are applicable within my ecosystem here. And so if I go back to my dashboard, when I created this trust registry, I have my administration portal in here for the registry, but there's also a public URL that was created for the trust registry, also with a public endpoint that could be called by third parties using protocols like the TRQP. And what happens if I look at the public side of things? So here you could see that we have an iframe implementation of this. I'll just put this full screen to make it a little nicer. So I could see here that within the Mining Association of Canada's website, we have deployed an iframe of this public view page of the trust registry, which is being managed by the administrator, but the entity statements and the authority statements are being published here publicly, which could either be queried through protocols or APIs, but could also be visualized here as well. So if I go into one of the mining operators here, I could see that here are all the member details. If I wanted to export this to a text file or a JSON file or just copy it, I could do it. If I wanted to view the public identifiers that they have, I could view it here as well. Again, this is being governed by the administrator of the trust registry. If I wanted to view any authority statements that they have, and the ones that are being governed here are authority to issue and verify, I could see them here. This entity doesn't have any authority statements, but if I jump back to here and I look at the operator of the trust registry, who is also a member because they're an entity within this ecosystem, and I look if they have any authority statements, I could see that, yeah, actually, they're authorized to verify these credentials. They're authorized to issue these credentials as well. And these credentials are credential metadata, like branding elements, are being rendered from that branding file that was linked with the credential from the admin side of things. So I could see the credential details. I could dig more into this. If I go back, the two last things I'll show here, because it's tough to keep these things very short, but the two last things I wanted to show are, I mentioned that we have that directionally from the ecosystem governing body able to make claims about its members to be able to make authority statements, but we're also interested in creating a bi-directional marketplace. So it's not only the trust registry operator that's making claims, but the members themselves are also able to make certain types of claims. And so what I'm talking about here is that if these entities in the ecosystem have specific credentials that they wish to share with the registry, whether they're an issuer, whether they're a holder, or whether they're a verifier. You can imagine a lot of scenarios where an issuer may want to make public that they've issued a certain amount of credentials or specific credentials to entities if it's okay to be made public. In this case, because these mining standards are public data anyways, we're okay doing that. But you would imagine an issuer issuing a digital driver's license would not want to do that, and they would not have the authority to do that. But in this case, you could see that this mining operator is comfortable sharing as a holder that they are a holder of this credential, and they've shared it with the trust registry. And you could see that this was shared with the trust registry on a specific date. They're sharing a bunch of data attributes from the credential, data attribute values that they have. And why this we feel is interesting is we have the concept of badges in our trust registry as well. And this is a whole configuration model where I could say, you know, entities have credentials that they store locally in their wallets, but they may want to share stuff with the ecosystem. And when they share credentials or different claims with the ecosystems, the ecosystem operator may want to say, hey, you know what? If you have these 5 credentials, or if you've been if you have the last 5 years of these sustainability records credentials, you could get a badge to say that you're a VIP member, or you're certified for a specific year type of thing. So we have the whole configuration of badges if I want to add new badges, and then just start to build the workflows around like what it would take to actually get a specific type of badge. I could do it in here, but what this looks like is that when a badge is actually issued to an entity, because they've shared specific claims with a public registry, they get these badges issued to them. And I could see it beside their entity here. And if I go on the actual entity about, I could see that, oh yeah, they have a TSM badge. They're not necessarily sharing their entire credential, nor do they need to share everything, but they could have these visual cues which become interesting. Because now I could take this and I could say, okay, maybe I'm a VIP member, or I've done certain things within an ecosystem. Like in the travel ecosystem, if I have connections with X number of travel agencies, I may want to have a specific badge saying, you know, I'm an airline that has connections with 100 plus travel agencies. And maybe I want to take this badge and I want to stick it in different channels. Maybe I want to stick it on my email, in my email footer. Maybe I want to put it on my website. And these become interesting because they're cryptographically verifiable badges where today in the world we just basically have like, people saying they're ISO certified, they're this, they're that, and they just have all these static images. But if I actually took the URL that's in here, it's deep linked back to the trust registry. If the trust registry has like verified entity statements of this is the entity's web domain, for example, and stuff like that, you could start to link badges that get displayed all over the place back to the trust registry. So we think this is a powerful concept to create visual cues all over the place, and we're exploring how this gets tied into the Ayra Cards concept as well.
Thank you, Matthew. That's one of the things we were actually talking about is if you look at business cards, you rarely ever see third-party badges. You see a company logo, but the one you see often is ISO. You guys are ISO 27001. Is that the right number?
Yep.
Yeah. That's a logo that, people spoof all the time. Trustpilot, Better Business Bureau. These are spoofed all the time.
So
if you are going to get ripped off, someone's going to show you a Better Business Bureau or something equivalent that you think is real, and it's not. That's really helpful. What we're talking about here is how we have these various different ecosystems, and what Ayra really is doing is tying them together. The Ayra Trust Network, which the Ayra Association, we govern the Ayra Trust Network. We don't run it. The members run it. What we're really doing is connecting trust registries. Our trust registry is really concerned about linking to those other trust registries. Another thing we're going to talk about is how do we know that things are going to work when I share information from the travel ecosystem into the SweetLane group, for example, or other places. As I start to connect these ecosystems, how do I know they're going to work? Because things get complex pretty quickly. I'm going to show you an example of how the amount of information that we need to validate and stuff. But the Conformance Test Suite, really what it does, it makes sure that those connections are working. And that includes checking all of the memberships. Are you a part of the Ayra Trust Network? Do you have the right to do the thing you just did in your ecosystem? So as Northern Block just showed, they've wired up trust registries. We've been testing against Travel Trust Registry as well. But what we're looking at here is how do members know that KIT is going to work? So we have conformance testing that we're going to just demonstrate a little bit here. But I wanted to show you just quickly graphically, what does this look like? Because then I'll show you more in slides, because this is getting a little bit nerdy, but there's a business context here. We have three fundamental roles in our world. One is holder. These are the wallets. You'll hear the EU wallet is doing a ton of work here, but this is how I'm holding the stuff that I'm going to share. We have verification. We have the actual, so you were seeing me use the app on my phone, the hotel, the business signing the coffee, that's a verifier. That is someone who is providing the ability to check information, but then they need to do testing against the things. Is the wallet part of the system? Does the trust registry connection work? And then we actually have the actual trust registries themselves. So we have three different things that we talk about. What this really means is as I go in and test a trust registry, I want to know, is it doing all of the things that are necessary to be a trust registry in the Ayra Trust Network? And in this case, in the context of Ayra Card, business card. So we are actually wiring all of that up, making sure that everything worked out. This ran against the Affinidi Trust Registry, ran against the Ayra Trust Network Trust Registry, ran as well against the Northern Block's Travel Trust Registry. As Matthew indicated, we have to be careful, have to respect our clients, our customers, as we respect your secrets. We aren't going to show that. But the key is we want to understand, and I'll give you a reason why in a moment, why we want these tests to pass. But the idea behind these is it's a relatively simple system. If as I come in, any vendor can come in and say, I have a tech stack, I have a solution I've built, I want to make sure it's working, and just run through the test itself. So quick, that was a bit of a demonstration on a few fronts. I want to just reiterate, what is it we just did? So we started looking at, using an Ayra business card, accessing a business site, getting a discount at a coffee shop, registering in a hotel. Looked at trust registries and how they work and how they are helping link ecosystems. And then the Conformance Test Suite. Talked a tiny bit about why we have this and what it looks like. Because what we're trying to do here is the problem we're solving is how do we get a dance going? How do we get this business card dance kind of thing going where we establish a connection, We share a small amount of information, and then it's up to us, not up to Ayra. It's up to us to figure out what are we going to do from there. And the way it's doing that is it's leveraging this global trust layer that Ayra and our members are building. That enables these private direct connections between organizations, between people, and any combination of those, including things. Agentic AI is a major area. And we believe, and members are working with us to, prove that this unlocks hidden value because things are locked in silos. Getting access to them is hard enough that you're not going to do it. And really what we're doing is a couple fundamental tools. Trust registries is how we link ecosystem together. Conformance testing is the kit that actually says, does it actually work? Here's all the pieces that are right. Here's the key pieces that need work on. The catalogs, this builds over time a market of what are the credentials that are valuable? Is there a fee for them? What are the terms and conditions behind them? And then the governance frameworks that underpin that. And the way we're looking at this, and the term Gary came up with this, is payloads, which really are kind of a mixed trust model in the following. If I have a business card, you saw I could type in my own LinkedIn address. I could have used Glenn's, Glenn Gore or Glenn Close. Really depends on which one I wanted to use. I could put in my phone number. The phone number I showed was actually, 555-1212, Hollywood's favorite fake phone number. But that's information I provide. It's actually helpful. If I give you my Signal connection, we connect on Signal. If I give you my LinkedIn, that may allow you to do some automation, but there's very little assurance behind that other than I shared it with you. That's the assurance. It also can be pointers to existing systems. Many of our members have large operating, profitable ecosystems. Opening them up broadly makes almost no business sense at all, but they do want to be open in many ways. If I can point you back to my system, which is controlling learner records, career records, that type of thing, and be a slow way or a controlled way of opening up, it really unlocks a lot of value. It also may come with high assurance. Glyph, as an example, has the verifiable legal entity identifier. I can quickly go from a no assurance, or low, to very high assurance programmatically. And it can be queries, it can be as informal as we want. And when we look at the payloads that are of interest, we have many members are leaning in on this. And what are the payloads that they want to start working on? Ranging from employer, career, learner to driver passport, Sentience is deep in that space. Compliance systems, IDV linkage, government ID. We all have government IDs, whether they're done by an IDV provider or native. We need to be able to hit those. Health records, all these other things. Social. This is just simple. Can I connect with you? We're seeing event management cases with some groups who are working with us, also working with the First Person Project of those more social connection type of things.
Online dating could be great.
It could be, yeah, absolutely. Age verification is another one. It's one that, depending on how you look at it, it's difficult to approach, but we've actually been approached. One of our members is working on children's online rights and redress. Mm-hmm. And knowing that someone is between age 13 and 17 and is accessing this particular portal is important. But once they turn 18, what changes? Do they want to make sure that they have the age appropriate capabilities? So those things are all used in different modes. But these payloads are really key in that the Ayra card doesn't have to change. It's the same dance. I just hand you my business card. And by the way, I had a payload that said, do the age verification dance. Or I just checked in the hotel, do the hotel check-in and traveler verification dance. So when we talk about these things being listed on a business front, we have a couple different things here to think about. Is we had two main ecosystems at play. And I'm talking about this for a moment because I want to cover off trust registries as well as the Conformance Test Suite. But the Ayra Trust Network, we govern the Ayra Card. That's a global thing. Different industries will do their own things. The Sweetlane Group in this example was a conglomerate that's using the Ayra card, the business card, and they manage their own issuers. They don't want to have to come to Ayra and say, hey, listen, we just got Sweetlane Retail wants to issue business cards. Ayra, can you add them to lists? That's not Ayra's job to manage. That's Sweetlane's job. As long as they know how to conform to what does the business card requirements mean, they manage themselves. On a technical basis, what this means is we assign different permissions. This is how we delegate the authority. And I'm going to get nerdy on this. And the pink is nerd warning. I could say that because I'm a recovering developer, CTO. Most business people can't say that. It's offensive. But Ayra has assigned manage issuers of Ayra Card, business card, to the Sweetlane Group. The Sweetlane Group then says to its member companies, hey, I'm going to allow you to issue the Ayra Card business cards under the condition that we're all following because we're part of the Ayra Trust Network. So what does this mean? It looks like the Sweetlane Bank, Sweetlane Energy, whatever the companies are in Sweetlane. We could, as I mentioned, we could do this, but this is not Ayra's job. Ayra's job is not to say, we're going to do this for you. We don't manage other ecosystems. Ayra can't do that. If we do that, we're doing the wrong thing and telling you how to do your business, which is not great thing to do. So this is where we actually have their own ecosystem trust registry. So what we saw earlier was two different trust registries at work. Matthew demonstrated his, but we also had the Ayra Trust Network, which is managing the issuance. And we had the Affinidi system, which was running the trust network for Sweetlane. It was basically saying, and this is part of our own trust registry, but they were assigning the action of issue, the thing, Ayra Card, business card, and Ayra gave the managed issuers of Ayra Card issue business card to the Affinidi Sweetlane ecosystem. There are a lot. That diagram itself is just the trust registry linkages. When we get into the schema, we get into the how do we move the credential back and forth. There's a lot of moving parts. Keeping control of them in your mind is difficult enough if you're an architect. But then you got to figure out what are the subtle differences when we interpret things differently. There's a lot of specs. The Ayra Card Conformance Test, bless you. The test suite kind of sews it all together. It lets people know that all of the moving pieces, I'm not going to go into the nerd detail on this one. We've already been to it down and we can get into it later. All of the moving pieces here, we want to make sure that they're working. But what I want to leave you with on that side is that the pieces that are here really come down into, in your own ecosystem, someone's going to issue a business card to an employee. I'm going to hold that in my wallet as an employee, and I'm going to go use that card inside the company with our own customers, and then outside, even at a hotel, coffee shop, as I talked about. And that's going to talk to the Ecosystem Trust Registry. It's also going to link in the Ayra Trust Registry. The Conformance Test Suite is the piece that helps us sew this all together. We want to know that I can move the business card to the verifier. I can share my business card with the coffee shop, with the front desk as I sign in. But they, underneath the hood, are going to be doing all of the checks. Is it a valid business card? Was it issued by a company that's part of the Ayra Trust Network? Did all of the things line up? And there are a lot there. That's what the Conformance Test Suite does. We have three profiles. We have a holder. This is the wallet. And I'm repeating this because a lot of folks outside of this room that don't understand all the moving pieces, don't want to, but need to at some level. So if I have my wallet, I have my app on my phone, that's me as a holder. If I'm a point of sale system, I'm verifier. I'm going to use the card. And then I got to make sure that if I'm the one managing the overall ecosystem, if I'm like Matthew showed, if I am listing, and Matthew had in both mining companies, they had auditors as well. They had the audit approval committee. They have different types of players in the ecosystem that they're governing, that'll work. And members need to understand, if you're a tech stack provider, you may provide one or all of these pieces. Affinidi does issuer, holder, verifier, trust, registry capabilities. Northern Block does issuer, holder, verifier, trust, registry capabilities. And depending on where you are, you may be providing one or all of those capabilities, but you want to know that when another person comes in to sign in the coffee shop, that app is going to work and you have no idea who they are, but it's part of the network and they can work together. So that Conformance Test Suite really exists to do this. This is on a business front is, will this work? Because and that's on a tech provider basis and also from the business person who's purchasing or using a system to do the thing. So if I want to put this into my front office to manage the fact that I'm a multinational conglomerate and I have employees that I'm literally turning away because I can't get an answer on compliance, that I can actually do this. We want to know on a business front. I don't want to say, well, this is how I interpret the standard and the specification. The Ayra Trust Network, that's one of the things we're here for as a community to decide this is how we interpret the inevitable ambiguities, that we know when we get a pass that it works for everybody. On a tech basis, we also want to know that our kit will work. And the end users want to know if I buy something from a vendor, can I trust that vendor's statement that they're going to work will actually work? That's where it actually comes in down the road, not today. Down the road, this Conformance Test Suite becomes part of the Ayra Trust Mark, and certification labs use it to actually validate the kit. So what's next? I wanted to say thank you to both Affinity and Northern Block. Affinity has, it's I think my second time here working on this. Glenn was gracious enough to throw the developers at the team under the conditions that it's open source, it's following the standards, and that we're agreeing. Hey, we're not going to in some ecosystems we will have kit that does it all, and other ones you won't even be involved, but you wanted to work together. But you've been very, very gracious on this. Going to show a little bit in a moment, Gary. Maybe you can speak to the what you guys have as far as other members to use, but also to Mathieu Claude for being one late at night, my friend. He, like me, is an early morning person, not an evening person. For showing the trust registries, and also, I mean, I was involved with that project, just loose advising. When that project that he just showed you with the Mining Association, which is now formally running, was basically a PDF and absolutely no controls whatsoever. But as the government got more rigorous, as they realized, I need more. I need kit and I need more formal governance of this overall process. And he's been through there the whole way there. Both Affinity and Northern Block, these QR codes go to their respective websites to have discussions, reach out to them in Slack on the member portal. And bring us in as needed. If you're having a business conversation, we really don't shouldn't be involved in that's our antitrust competition. If it comes down to, hey, we're learning some things or some questions we need to understand as a community, both Affinity and Northern Block will also likely recommend, hey, let's bring Ayra in, but you don't need us involved in having discussions on where you're going with that. Gary, if you could talk a tiny bit about the Affinity components that we saw.
Yeah.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Daryl. I think to highlight the key point that all of these components that we used are open source and mutually exclusive. So the idea was that how do we take these unique capabilities and combine it together to the challenge, Daryl, you threw at us in September, like, can you really show the concept of Ayra business card in a way that it's simple, but it's not simplistic, right? All the dance that is happening. How do we make sure that while we're building an open protocol, but what does an application experience look like when you're starting to build as a developer, as a business? And I think those are the pieces that come together through various open source capabilities that we have. We'd love to learn. We'd love to see if others have tried some things and then also give us feedback and then extend some of them and change it to something that they have so that we can really, as you said, we need more than one to really bring the power of community and the idea of Ayra business card to life. So we have a TDK vault, which is like the SSI wallet. Meeting place SDK and meeting place control plane allows us to make a safe, secure way to connect two entities with DIDs. And it's actually even more when we would be getting the world of agents and agents are acting behalf of you or behalf of businesses. You need a place to while the DITCOM spec allows you to say what an out of band invitation spec looks like, but how do you actually incorporate? Do you have to host an API? Do you have to host an invitation registry and all that? All that is simplified so that we can start from a higher level, don't have to start from those lower in the stack. DITCOM v2.1 just for the establishing the mediator. This allows each relationship that you show, like what Daryl you showed, each one was a unique relationship between the holder and a verifier. And that can be a long-term relationship. You can communicate with them and with consent share data. And verifiable data exchange protocols is a set of family of protocols to allow structured data set sharing between two entities with DID. It's all built on DITCOM 2.1. Affinity Trust Registries, soon it will be open source, completely supports TRQP 2.0 and everything similar to what you saw from Matthew. So would love, I would say really looking forward to collaborate more with the members via the community and then see what are the new ideas, what are the new payloads that we need to bring it to life, what are the business use cases that we can show it in a simple way, but there will be work involved behind the screen and happy to collaborate on that. Thanks, Daryl, for the opportunity.
Matthew, if you're still there, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or if you want my email, I could provide it as well, or Darren could provide it.
We'll send out an email with the deck that we used here, as well as all these contact information the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Affinity and Northern Block are very open to collaborating with the community. I think we all have with Ayra the similar vision that there needs to be collaboration to grow the pie and really bring a lot of this to market. And so if you're working on verifiable data exchange, or you're thinking about governance and trust registries, it's always worth having a conversation to get to know what each other is doing, and if there's any knowledge sharing or learning or whatever, I think we're all happy to help each other out.
Awesome. Thank you. And just you're gonna see in the next couple of weeks, the Conformance Test Suite's actually already on our GitHub. It is in rapid change mode right now, as the Affinidi team and Matthew will point out. The week of the 8th to 12th of December, we're going to do a couple of things. One is release at least one Loom video, if not several, on how to use it, how to deploy it, where the code is. But also in tech office hours, our focus is going to be on the Conformance Test Suite, because depending on whether you're building and focusing on where does an Ayra card fit into a wallet context, into a verifier context, or a trust registry context, we want to make sure you're getting your questions asked. And we think that's going to be ongoing. Additionally, Maxwell and I are working with several different members. We're working on a call for participation in a proof of concept right now. We're hoping to get that out this week. We are busy traveling, and we'll see how fast we can get that out. Affinidi is involved with that, Trusted Associates, as well as Bhutan right now. Still trying to make sure that we have a small enough scope to get something done in a fixed period of time. We're also talking with some members about funded pilot projects that they want to pursue next year to make sure that they get the business KPIs and metrics that they want to understand worked on. But you'll hear more about that in the next few days. And Maxwell, is there anything you would add right now?
No, again, I really appreciate all the work that Affinidi did and Northern Block has done. I think that as we think about where Ayra is going in this movement that we've created, and everyone is building towards, it's fantastic. I think that just I would add is that, we are looking forward to having everyone, as Daryl says, not have Daryl lead these demos, but really have our community really take these tools and then create their own demonstrations of that. And on the proof of concepts where people are able to take things off the shelf, our goal is to be able to announce 3 of these by the middle of December to really give us the momentum in January to see what the community coming together can produce. So again, really appreciate everyone's time. And again, the team did a fantastic job. So we really
enjoyed working together.
Mr. Glenn Gore.
Yes,
My identity is a mystery. That's a CEO for a privacy company. But look, I think it's awesome to see the collaboration occurring. What Matthew has built at Northern Block and the Trust Registry, it's great to see one actually being used live, and badges and usability aspects is fantastic. I think what you'll find is each partner is focusing on different aspects and kind of different value propositions as you go through it. So I would echo what others said, is just start the conversation and discover the different philosophies, different approaches, and then pick what combination of components is right for you. And that's the great thing about what we're building, is you get to have that choice. It's not a one size fits all aspect, and that's really where the real innovation comes from.
Yeah. Awesome. Napor, Gary, Anna?
No, nothing additional from me. Thank you for doing this and spending the time with us.
Well, thank you for hosting us. It's been fun, especially realizing that Natan, we were on Slack sending messages saying we need this, and I didn't realize Natan was literally around the corner. Reading him last night. I'm like, that's the screen. It was really, really cool. And Paramesh back in Bangalore was awesome seeing them chew through stuff. And again, that was just creating the demo screens, which is leveraging your kit.
Yeah, the entire.
But just for folks that would want to put it at the front desk of a hotel, at the counter of a coffee shop.
So I think if anyone has any questions or sort of feedback or information they want to provide, please use the Slack channel, the member Slack channel, to sort of post comments. Well, thanks everyone. We really appreciate the time.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.